Hello and welcome to the Weshtern Philosophy Podcast. Two friends with oceans and oceans discussing the unseen forces in our lives through the lens of music, mystery and crack. This week, Anthony and Bart discussed the topic of focus. And there's one photo where I'm kind of smiling to myself playing and the light cuts across my face and I'm like, oh, this is going to be terrible. I just realized. It's nearly like...
Oh my God, say it.
Oh, God.
Say it. You have to. I'm not editing this out.
Oh God, it's I'm such a stupid idiot. Oh God, it's it.
Oh, I'm on tenterhooks.
Is it on?
It's on. It is on like Donkey Kong.
Boom. It is on like Azerbaijan. So the last episode we did together, before we had a fucking awesome guest, was about dreams, and I went insane. Now, last night, as I knew we were going to be recording, I actually had a lovely, lovely romantic evening with Yvonne. It was all great, and I slept soundly, but I dreamt.
Oh dear.
I dreamt about Anthony O'Connor. And I was just...
Oh my God.
No, it wasn't the romantic. It wasn't the romantic leading into the... Oh, he's nervous now.
Let me
He's
just
nervous
cut the
now.
mic quickly.
Yeah. But the video is still on. And that is the part people will want to pay good money for, ladies and gentlemen. Are we okay?
We're all good.
You're clicking nervously. It's just to
I'm
get
just
rid
trying
of
to,
the
I'm
energy.
just trying to distract.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't look you in the eye right now.
It's
So
easily done. Listen, better into the eye than the crotch. So anyway,
as they say.
I think I've kind of, since the last episode, I've just embraced my insanity. I'm not gonna be witty or intelligent. So I'm just gonna be a fucking idiot for an hour. Anyway, so the dream was me just like talking and kind of, I think I've been getting in my head about being just slow these mornings recording and just like, come on Bart, wake up, beep, And then in my dream, I was there just kind of chatting to you, kind of like, okay, this is okay. This is okay. And then I was like, right, Anthony, how do we do it? You were like, 11 minutes. You just, kind of like, I don't even know what is the English for this now? You shook your head. Thank you, Jesus Christ. And you were like, 11 minutes. I was like, oh, fuck, I thought there was at least 50 in there. So just to repeat the dream, how many minutes was that?
That was 3, Bart.
Oh, thank God.
If so you're
There was this.
We're going to need more.
No, I know, but there was this. I was just thinking there was this episode. I used to always watch QI. Do you know QI with Stephen Fry? And now I think it's Sandy Toksvig, but I don't even know if they do it anymore. But it was actually when I was still learning English, would you believe? And I just always found that so funny that it made me want to be better at English. And also they had loads of like regional accents and little inside things and kind of British slang and stuff that would be really helpful. And there'd be Irish people on there as well. But there was one episode where Victoria Corrin was on there, and she'd said that the night before she'd had a dream where, they always have that thing on that show where if somebody gives a really stupid answer, the big buzzer, and the answer shows up because they've prepped the obvious answers, and if you give an obvious answer, and she had some, I don't 100% remember what it was, but it was some like erudite kind of thing about why did the Aztecs revere the March hare or something like that. That was her dream. And then she gives an answer and the horns go and everyone laughs at her. But then she said that, and then later in the episode, they made it happen. So they just programmed that thing to happen. So that's what I was trying to recreate there with you just going, how many minutes? 11 minutes. Oh, no. Right.
Well,
good morning, everyone.
Morning, modern of art.
The last one you said that as well, and I just went, hello. Yeah. I don't speak Irish.
It's okay. You speak Dutch. You're doing all right.
But it's not going to be any help to anyone. Goedemorgen, lieve luisteraars in Nederland.
There we go. I can't believe you'd say that about my mother, but that's fine. This is definitely one of our more rambly beginningless, because I edit these, right? So I'm like, okay, we're chatting, and the way it goes is like we sit down, we start like just chatting, and we record everything, and the bit of editing, we do as little editing as possible to these, which I'm sure will stun people, but the one bit of editing we do is like I pick where we start. You know, and there's usually actually pretty an obvious beginning, you know, and I just cut off everything before then. There was no beginning there. People are, I think I might just have to fade it in. So,
well, I do think that the thing that we always get out of the way before you hit record is gossip.
Yeah.
Because I think, is this true? Mm-hmm. Is this true, Anthony? Would you say that we are both afraid of that if we do that on mic, even if you're going to edit it, somehow a demon is going to get into your computer and send that to the world?
Well, I think what we need to do is
answer the question, damn it.
Record it and then just release it on the Patreon. So if you want to know if we've been gossiping about you, you'll have to join our Patreon.
We're not mean gossips, but we are gossips.
I mean, you know, let's call a spade a spade. Yeah, we have to. But we're all kind of gossips. I think
everyone, and it's not like to convince. It's not to convince you of anything.
Yeah.
I'm not like, do you know so-and-so actually is a prick?
Yeah.
It's more just like, oh, I've seen this. Did you hear this? And but we are like,
I think it's part of being in a
nannies.
We are, and I think it is part of living in a small, tight-knit community. We spend a lot of time with people, which is very nice, and we're very blessed to do. You know.
Yeah.
And then we turn that into fuel for gossip.
And resentment.
But anyway, this is very, very rambly, Bart. And could you focus? Could you focus for 1 minute? And if you're focusing, what does focusing look like? It looks like it's giving you a headache. Bart is grasping his head in his hands at the moment.
Well, would you believe that I came up with this topic? Because I think focus is a real it's a thing I'm finding tricky. And I also don't want to make this podcast just us moaning about what we find tricky in life, which is kind of happening, but people then go, I resonate with this. I don't know, I think it's the more honest thing to do is to be like, well, and that's one of the things you focus on as well, is you tend to focus on the things that are in your way.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think there's other podcasts out there where people are like, I'm shit hot at X. Let me tell you about X, like Diary of a CEO or whatever. But we're like, here's all the things we're bad at and worried about. So,
Diary of a CEO is a funny one.
I've never actually listened to it.
I quite like it. I quite like him. I don't like how they it's too smooth.
Okay. Yeah.
That it's like a whole team and it's everything. It's very CEO-y.
Yeah.
But there is some vulnerability to it, which is I think the thing that people mostly, or that's what I relate to when people are like. That's why I love Bobby Lee, Tiger Belly podcast. You know, he's just a train wreck all the time, and he just tells these stories where you're just like, oh my god, do you really want to do that with a microphone in front of your face? So that is who I'm emulating. But with focus, that's just the thing that's a big thing in my life right now, is that I know that I'm very lucky to have a full life. Because if you see people where you feel that it's a bit empty, that makes me very sad. But where to put your energy and where to put your attention, because where you put your attention changes everything.
Yeah.
But I have small kids. I have a lovely wife. I play music. I have a business. I have a fucking podcast, lads, which is great crack as well. And then I have some friends as well that you need to pay attention to, and family, and who are, I've made sure they're all abroad. Hi, guys. Azusi.
The podcast is now how you engage with your family.
Yeah.
It's very efficient.
Exactly. How is Bart doing? Let's tune into episode 11, which I think this will be. Isn't it great that we got 10 out of the way?
Could you focus? But yes, absolutely it is.
So how many of these have I called you a cunt? Because I do think you...
I would say about 4.
That's
if we include Joe's intro. No, it is amazing. We're on 10 podcasts. We've released a podcast a week every week for, well, this will be 11, I think, like you said, or it might even be 12. I can't remember.
It's good.
Maybe it's 12. But anyway, it's 3 months of weekly releases, which... do you know what? This is actually really appropriate.
Yeah.
We talked about this pod for a literal year before we started recording. And we actually started recording in January of this year before the first pod came out. Was it April or something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know that when I start something, I'm not the kind of person that likes to, let's start this and see if it works. Oh, it didn't, it fell apart. That's fine. We'll start something else. That frustrates me, especially as I get a bit older. And the fact that we kept talking about the pod for a year, I was like, okay, this has legs, right? So let's do it. But the way we did it was we knew that we knew nothing about making a podcast. We knew that we probably had the skills or could acquire them, like in terms of tech and stuff like that, you know? And I think one of the things that we were both on board with pretty quickly, and I think one of the reasons we've made it to 10 or 11 or 12 episodes is that we were like, we're going to clear out a time in the week and we're just going to give it to the pod. And I remember at the start, it wasn't even about recording. Like it would have been talking about the pod or messing around with mics or brainstorming topics or something. But it was just a morning a week where we focused on the pod. And the thing about focus is it's about what you're doing, but it's also about what you're not doing. It's about what you're cutting out. Because when you focus on one thing, the other stuff doesn't go away. The other stuff is still absolutely as present as it was before. But it's just not getting your attention. It's not getting your energy. Yeah, and that was difficult because we're both busy people. You in particular, like you said, you have music and work and family and young children. And I really appreciated you clearing that space and giving the pod your focus.
I don't know why, but that's making me uncomfortable when you say that. I think that's too kind of curtsying. I don't know.
But I think
you're equally busy. You just look after people in a wider. Anyway, let's not fight.
I think what I want to get across is that I appreciated. You know, when you're focused on something, you're not focusing on other things.
Yeah.
And I think to be the recipient of somebody's focus is usually quite a good thing, and it's something I appreciate. So I will say that.
Okay, well, just to level it then, what I've really appreciated about your focus is, because there's an interesting thing about focus where sometimes if you focus on something, it grows, and sometimes if you focus on it, it diminishes, which I've never really thought about before, but that's an odd one. You know, like, and one of the things your focus has really helped me is when I was going through a rough time and wanted to share some of the pain of that, that sharing it with you really alleviated it. So it's funny how... But then again, it's also like if you're fretting on something, if you're giving your focus that way, it tends to grow, you know, and yeah.
Yeah. So 11 minutes, but...
Thank you for recreating that for me.
So I every time we're talking, my brain is going to two places, and when I'm thinking about focus, I'm thinking about it in a very physical way because I'm also take photos.
I hadn't even thought about that one. Nice.
So, and I do actually, one of the cheesy trademarks of my style is that I use a very shallow depth of field. So I have a very narrow focus in most of my images. And yeah, we can talk about that a little bit maybe later. But it's so funny when you talk about giving different things your focus. So a shallow depth of field, if you think of a photograph, like a very... what they might call a quote-unquote well-composed photograph will have something going on in the foreground, something going on in the midground, and something going on in the background. So if we do make this video, you know, the little cups and stuff here, this would be the foreground, we're in the midground, and we're getting the focus, and the background is the wall behind us. And your subject should be in focus, you know, and if you're using a shallow depth of field, your subject will be in focus, and the other stuff will be blurred. And if you're taking a photo of a person standing in front of a tree and they're in the foreground, the tree's in the background, and they're in focus and the tree is blurry, looks great. If you take a photo of somebody and they're blurry and the tree behind them is in focus, it looks fucked. It's so fucked. And I remember I took a photo I quite liked, but there was something off about it, and I asked her another photograph, and she was like, I'd taken it low down, and I'd taken a photo of a barbed wire fence really close to the lens, and then a woman walking quite far back from the lens. And I focused on the woman. She was very small in the frame. The barbed wire was very big, but the barbed wire was blurry. And the lady I spoke to was like, it's very hard to have something out of focus and very close to you. She's like, that barbed wire is in the foreground. It's the biggest thing in the image and you've left it out of focus. And even though the woman is the subject, having that there out of focus is disconcerting for people. So I think that's kind of what you're saying, is that like, depending on how you focus, it can give you energy or take it away, make things bigger or smaller.
Yeah, because I'm assuming the thing with the barbed wire was intentional, and well, it was obviously intentional, but also I would think that would work quite well because barbed wire is quite disconcerting anyway.
Yeah, like if you're looking for that disconcerting mood, it worked. But
is it like, does it feel like a bad photo? Because there is a difference between quality and intent as well. Like, you know what I mean?
I think what I should have done is put both of them in focus. Basically.
Oh, did you take this photo?
I took them. Yeah,
oh, sorry, I thought someone else. Okay,
yeah. No, I fucked up. It's on me.
No, that's fine then.
But yeah. So choosing where to put your focus, and
I like that you took it to camera. It's actually a funny thing is just before we moved to Ireland, I did a little indie film called De Erfenis. Yes, the Dutch people are loving all the Dutch references, which means the inheritance, and it's about like it's about family problems, you know. And but the funny thing was, it was really professionally shot by a group of fairly young lads. I think the main camera operator was about 30 or something, but there was like really young interns, one of them doing the focus. Oh, yeah, and I never realized how big a thing that was. And I remember like we got so it was like I played a character, then there was a guy playing my brother, and then there was a guy playing the dad, and it was and then there was a girl that my character was dating, and a mother. Yeah, it was 5 people. And I thought they were all really good. And the most of us were kind of like amateur, semi-professional actors, but the guy playing the father was a professional Dutch actor. Excellent guy. Dirk. Fuck, what's his surname now? Well, it'll come to me later maybe. But he was very, very good, and he was really in a scene, really throwing his weight around in a great way, and it was like epic. And then it was over. It was a cut, and the guy hadn't the focus right, and it was like, all that's done. It's gone.
Yep.
Do it again. Yep. Now, this is not to give shit to the intern. He was actually very good. Mm-hmm. But I'm just, when you were talking about that, I was thinking of that, how interesting it was that there was like the boom for the audio, there was the camera, there was people actually, it was really tight space, there was people actually kind of moving stuff around us. We were acting our hearts out, and there was emotion, and blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, yeah, the focus wasn't there, lads, so done.
Yeah.
Isn't that mad? But it's mad as well that it always needs, so it always needs to be in a good photo. Does it always need to be middle object? Because I suppose you can pick what you're framing, really.
Yeah. Can I adjust your mic here?
Oh, what have I done? Is it too?
Just that.
Oh, yeah.
There's rules of photography, and they, in my opinion, make for bad photography, but they're worth knowing. So there's this idea of the foreground, midground, background, and there's this idea of the rule of thirds. So if you imagine dividing a photo into 3 horizontally and 3 vertically, you want to put interesting things at where those lines overlap. Mm. And there's other systems of dividing up a photograph as well. Excuse me. But most of the really interesting photos out there, yeah, like a very standard way to do a portrait is to have somebody in perfect focus and then a background that's blurry, and your entire focus is on the person, right? Now, if you change the depth of field so that more of the image can be in focus, you can shoot somebody so the image, the thing behind them is a complete blur. You can't make it out. It's just a swathe of color.
Yeah.
Or you can change the depth of field until you're like, oh, maybe that's a tree or a fence. Or you can change the depth of field until everything is pin sharp. And what that does is it gives you context, you know? So it depends on, if you want to shoot a mechanic in a garage, I think it would be quite, if you want to do a portrait of a mechanic in a garage, I think it would be quite sad to shoot it with the complete background blurred out.
Because the background, there's a lot of interesting stuff.
The background is part of their story, you know? But one of the reasons I shoot with a shallow depth of field is because it's better in low light. And if I'm shooting in pubs, in dark pubs around Ireland, having that narrow focus actually allows more light into the camera. It's just the physics of how lenses work. So what I'll often do is I love to shoot, say if a musician is singing, I love to shoot over the shoulder of somebody watching them. So the person is blurry, the musician is in pin focus, and then you might see a few people behind them which are blurry again. The people watching are not as important as the musician, but having them there out of focus, but you're still able to see that they're people, gives the mood. You know that there is an audience. You don't need specifics of the audience, but you know that there is one, and that feeds into it. So, and the other interesting thing about focus with cameras is, like I said, shallow depth of field, narrow focus works better in low light. If you want to widen your focus, you actually do it by narrowing the aperture. You narrow the amount of light coming into the camera, and that gives you a wider amount of focus. But if you just change that, the photo will get darker, so you need a longer exposure. And it is interesting because light is energy, and to focus on more things, literally more energy needs to be coming into the camera. Like, that's baked into physics. I think that definitely applies to our life as well. Like, if you're trying to focus on more and more things, or try to bring things into a wider and wider context, it takes either more time, so shutter speed, or more energy, a higher ISO or something.
That's very interesting. And I like that image as well about the photo in the pub, because I think you do excellent. I'm just going to promote you for a bit.
Thank you.
I really, you are my favorite photographer.
Come here now.
In part because also I've never, like, you see photo and you go, good photo, you know, but I think with you, I can see the artistry, maybe also more because I've been more involved with it, with being in the moment or something. It's just something, I know it sounds horrible to all the photographers out there, sorry, but it's just something I've not really paid that much attention to, but through you I have. And then I see you can take such living images of people, especially. And the light is really like, there's one photo you took of me in Daly's in Ennistimon, which was a pub, is now a bookshop, but they had like a huge window coming in from the street where you could sit with the musicians, and then the light would come in. And there's one photo where I'm kind of smiling to myself playing, and the light cuts across my face, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be terrible. I just realized it's nearly like,
oh my God, say it. Say it. You have to. I'm not editing this out.
Oh God, it's I'm such a stupid idiot. Oh God, it.
Oh, I'm on tenterhooks. Don't tell me you need to. Bart has written the word Rembrandt.
Oh God, the arrogance.
I'm a big fan of yours, Bart, but I think there are levels to artistry, and neither of us.
I considered this for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm going to come out of it because this is going to get annoying.
But you know what, there is.
Oh God, no! But I mean, obviously, I don't mean that I am like the girl with the pearl earring. Yeah. And I'm not saying that you are Rembrandt, but
you're just saying you're a bit of an old Dutch master, is what you're saying.
Listen. It's not for me to say, but if you want to say it, I'm very glad it's on record now. But seriously, okay, I'll get to it now. Yeah. But seriously, like, I've never been as aware of light in a photograph. So it's all fucking ego that I only look at my own face in that. But it's more like, that's a special thing. Like, if I could take fine photos with the smartphone because I don't have the skill. So thank God that yoke and now AI or whatever takes care of most of it, and it's lovely for pictures of the kids and whatever. But there was some real artistry to the picture, where the light hits a certain way, and you're like, oh yeah, that works. And what I was going to say as well, that's what I was going to, is that I like that picture you painted of the people in the pub, because their focus is on the musician, and that's a huge part of a gig. Like, you playing bass here on your own on the couch is very different than you playing it in a gig where everyone is pointing their energy towards you, and we kind of need that, and that's why, for instance, during COVID, so many artists had a rough time. And I always say it to people as well when they come to our sessions and they go, "Oh, thanks, love the music." I'm like, "You guys were a real part of it."
Absolutely.
If there's
that's not just a line.
if there's that's not just a line. It's like if there's dicks in the audience or people who are just not paying attention, it will fall very flat. We can still have a lovely time. We can enjoy the music, but it doesn't lift the way it does when everyone's energy is put into that situation.
Yeah, for sure. The Rembrandt thing is very funny, but
seriously though, you know what I mean.
No, but there's actually reasons for it, because Rembrandt, Caravaggio, and the Dutch masters, I'm okay, thank you, brother. They would paint images with a lot of blacks, and with a single light source.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I photograph as well. I love people surrounded by shadow, lit by a single light source. So it's not the maddest comparison in the world.
Well, it was just about, I was laughing about my ego there, but I mean it like I know that he was famous for the use of light.
Yeah.
And you really use light. Like I've seen you make really like I think when John Lillis was here and we had him on the episode, you've taken a beautiful picture where like the angles of his wonderful face are really in like sharp relief, because there's the light coming from the window there. So that's what all I was hinting at.
Yeah. And it's interesting you talk about the audience is focusing on the performer, so it's kind of appropriate that they're not in focus in the image, because it helps us relate to the audience, because their focus is not on each other, their focus is on the performer as well. So everything there is working together.
Yeah.
But also I love sometimes taking photos of gigs where you just pick out one audience member. And then it becomes less about the performance and it becomes about the response to the performance, and a very individual, personalized response too. So that's another nice way you can change your focus and see things from another perspective. And the camera could be on a tripod. The camera could be in exactly the same position with exactly the same settings, and you just do a little bit of focus pulling and you get a completely different emotion out of the scene.
And a different story from And I always think like the trad session is such a whole world that you could explore, because there's so much going on there with do you know our friend Gabriel, who does the lovely sketches? She does
extraordinary.
She does really nice. She's like a tiny little
the size of a playing card.
Yeah. And she just does these lovely quick sketches of us playing music, but she'll also just do an audience member, and they're wonderful. And then she usually puts a bit of plastic over them, and you can take them, and it's...
But she does them in seconds, 20, 30 seconds, and it's just like, I see that done. And like sometimes there's been events where I've been photographing and she's been sketching, and then I see her sketches.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're better. They're so
But it's
good.
so different. It's so different. And then it really becomes her story and her interpretation, because you still work with the reality of what is there and the light that's hitting. But reality, I mean, we could go into that. But even when the way she sketches people listening, like, then it becomes a whole different story.
Yeah.
The person listening to... It becomes a story of the person listening to music rather than the story of the music that gets the focus of the people. I hadn't thought we'd go all into that.
Can I make it personal?
Go on.
You played a gig in This Is It years back.
That's where we met, sure.
That's it, yeah. Katie organised it when she was managing there.
She organised our friendship.
Yeah, she organised. Fuck, that does happen though. Like, Katie did come back and was like, I found a friend for you. And it's happened a few other times as well, where like our friend Joe, Katie and his wife were just like, we should organise a play date for the lad.
Yeah.
But that's men. That's what we're like. But anyway, you played that gig and I took a bunch of photos. I sent them on to you, and there was one that was like blurry and out of focus, and I was like, it's kind of shit. It's almost a good photo, but I fucked up the focus, and I think I was moving the camera or something as well. So I was like, it's not great, but it's like a funny wee moment. Bart's got a big smile on his face, and I'll do what people do with all subpar photos. I'll chuck a black and white filter on it, and I'll just fling it over to him, and he might enjoy it. You know, might get a bit of a kick out of it. So that photo is now your WhatsApp profile photo. It's what you use to advertise gigs. And every time, I've got to be honest here, every time I see it, I'm like, oh God, I took so many more technically perfect photos that night. But you like that one?
Well, and the funny thing is, I don't necessarily even use it. Other people use it. And like my lovely sister Anna, who we're just talking to, she loves that photo. Yeah. And I think because it relates much more the energy where I'm really it's not even like I'm smiling, I'm really laughing to myself.
Motion, you're like,
and it's a guitar there, and it's a black shirt, and you made a black one. And I can understand how as a Dutch master you would go, okay, maybe the skill that I brought to that, but geez, if it works, it's like if you're playing a simple tune and people enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's great.
And I think there's a trap of the technically perfect as well.
Oh, yes, there is.
So like I said, there were way more photos there that were technically perfect. I have a photo book over behind us. I'm actually going to go grab it so you can take a look at it.
Lovely. I'm just going to see whose call I've missed to see if it's really important. Oh, yeah, it is fairly important, but we'll do it later. Yeah.
Do you need to pause?
No, it's fine.
And you actually get to open this up because I lent this to somebody and it got covered in motor oil. So they bought me a replacement copy. So you can open that up. So it's Golden. Sorry, what's her first name? It's the Ballad of Nan Golden, the Ballad of Sexual Dependency. So she was in New York in the 80s, and it's basically she had a camera and she was photographing her and her friends and their relationships and their drug use and all this stuff. And there are so many photos in there that are...
This is lovely audio, isn't it?
It is lovely Foley.
Plastic, yeah.
So there are so many photos in there that are technically imperfect.
The Ballad of Sexual Dependency.
Mm-hmm. So they're really intimate photos. And I honestly think if they were technically perfect, you would lose that sense of intimacy. There's bits where the focus is in the wrong place, they're overexposed, they're underexposed, the framing is off.
God, it's quite heavy or something.
Yeah, it's raw. It's very, very raw.
Jeez, that's a brave man pissing with a cream colored pants. Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. Hello. Yeah. Well, people can look at this for themselves.
Yeah.
But it's very Jesus.
But a lot
it's kind of Tom Waitsy.
Yes, actually, it does have that kind of vibe to it.
Oh God.
Yeah. So it's really, really powerful. And I think if those photos were technically perfect, are you okay, Bart?
Yeah, but it's. Well, it's not like it's not the that it's a bit graphic, but it's kind of it's sad. I find it quite sad. You know, there's a pregnant lady here on a slab of.
Yeah, they did not have happy lives. These
are people. These all sex workers or?
No, some of them are, but like I think quite a few of them have passed away quite young and so on. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, it's a tremendous piece of work.
Yeah, I can see why this is you'd want this.
But if you showed that to like a photography, oh yeah, cool, yeah. But yeah, sorry. So it's basically the power of the imperfections in it. And that's in that photo of you as well. Like it's more important that we caught the mood, you in motion, laughing and playing the guitar, than nailed the focus. Absolutely. And I think that's maybe sometimes something we need to do in life as well. Not literally be, this is exactly how things are and this is exactly how they need to present and how they need to progress, but like give ourselves open to like the fuzziness of things as well. And maybe we don't know exactly where to put our focus for a while.
And an interesting thing as well about you taking photos is the way in which you take them, because it can be the focus of being under the scrutiny of a camera can make people very rigid, and can actually kill the mood. So you're actually quite good at taking that atmospheric image, because you kind of do it in a kind of a quick. You're very quick, and kind of and then you get those moments, because in that moment I had no clue you were photographing me. Whereas if you've been setting up for the perfect shot, maybe I would have been. Even when I was doing that film I was just talking about, like I hadn't really done anything proper film, but a lot of theater. And then, like the first scene, it was all set up like at a kitchen table actually, and big fucking camera, boom, everyone's attention on there. And I was like, right, my hands, on my legs. Hello, father. And just the director who was directing it, she done a lot of theater stuff with me, and she was like, "The fuck are you doing, man? Let's keep it a bit relaxed." But it's such a different animal.
Oh yeah.
Where actually then in the theater you're trying to project as far back, and it can be quite big, and even people in the front won't mind because it makes sense for that space. But when there's a camera in your face, you can't go. All big and grotesque. So it's interesting that even that is changed by the focus. But that there it nearly diminishes it.
Yeah.
But then with a lot of stuff in your life, to kind of bring it more to the personal, things need your focus to thrive and to not grow. I read this story. What is it now? It's something about a dragon. It's something like a kid's book about a dragon, where there's a kid and there's a dragon in the house, but the parents pretend the dragon isn't there, and so the dragon becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until he fills up the entire house. And then once they start paying attention to him, then it shrinks again. I think it has something to do with the child getting attention or something like that. If you give them proper attention, they will thrive, and otherwise all these I don't know if nefarious is the right word, but kind of the dark subconscious will come out and become unregulated. And I've seen that. Like, things need to be tended to, but it's funny that sometimes attention kills things as well. Like with a photographer who is on top of you, and someone is being funny and enjoying. Well, even the focus to this yoke in front of my face here.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first time we started speaking on mic, it was like, rah, 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 rah. Oh, hello, Anthony. So yeah.
Yeah, it is. And even the theater versus film, in the theater, you've the focus of, 100, 200, 400 people in an audience focused on you on stage. But in a film, you have a lens, like just one lens in your face. And to be on the receiving end of that focus can be very disconcerting, I would imagine.
And it's the person with the lens, to a large extent, who makes the decision of where your attention is focused. Whereas on a stage, like I did a fair few musicals and stuff, like there's so much going on usually, and then you really need to pull focus. I think, did I tell this story before, where we were doing with that same director I just mentioned, actually, Samantha Janssen, lovely director. We did a version of the Moulin Rouge, that film. It was great crack. But I played the owner of the brothel, Harold Zietler. Lovely, really nice role to play, because he's like quite a compassionate person, but then also he's whoring these girls out, and he has to kind of regulate that within himself. He cares for them, but also he needs to make money. He needs to keep the place open, because otherwise they're on the street. So it was kind of nice, interesting role to play. But then there was one bit where it moves from a scene, and everyone, I don't know if most people will have seen the film, like there's this bit where they go into some sort of mock Indian garb, and it's kind of like, it's Paris in the 19th century, and so it's all very Baroque, and they do some fake Indian dancing, whatever. So that part was in the musical, but the whole cast had to quickly get into like the fake Indian garb, and so they could do a big dance. Now, I can't dance for fuck, which you'd be surprised to know. So it was lovely. There was a lovely choreographer who would always say, I love seeing you at audition, because it's the only time a year I will see you, But then usually I would get a nice singing and speaking part. But anyway, but they just they needed a minute for everyone to change. So they just put me like in a golden sari and with a huge turban and a huge peacock feather. And they're like, Yeah, you go out there and pull focus for a minute. There's a brilliant photo of this I'll show you after. And I just
Put it on the Insta.
walked out like a fucking peacock. I really enjoyed it as well because it was so daft.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, hello, aren't I great? And obviously, no, you're not. You look like an idiot. But it was so funny to do that. And then for like 400 people looking at you to go, focus, 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 and then the dance begin.
Yeah.
But yeah, geez, it's funny. There's so much. We don't even realize how much that focus is part of everything. Actually. Yeah.
Oh, it's huge, both to give and receive.
Yeah.
And it's.
I love to receive.
Yes, I can imagine.
No, I'm joking.
We touched on this in our episode with Joe Flynn when we were talking about how like Joe is a physical therapist and when I'm doing the acupuncture, I don't want to give too much away, but we all develop tricks for distracting patients. You know, so my thing is like the fear of the first acupuncture needle is the worst. That's going to be the worst part of the whole treatment. If you're scared of acupuncture, like that bit before the first needle is the worst part. Yeah. The first needle's fine. Like once that's in, you're like, it's painless, you know, or very, very minimal sensation. I think it's a lot less painful than a physical therapy massage. Somebody digging their elbow into your,
especially if Joe is operating.
But you pull people's focus, you know, and you will ask questions like, what's your son's name? And so they'll be like, their whole focus is like, oh, the first needle is coming, you know. And you're like, what's your son's name? I'm like, my son? Oh, his name's Joe. And the needle is in. Yeah. You know? And you're like, there you go. And then you can return focus. And I'm like, there you go. It's there. It's in your ankle.
Yeah, you're fine.
Like, and you were talking about the photos as well. You know, my theory is that there's 10% of people, maybe 20% of people that just love the camera. They just love being in front of a camera and they photograph really, really well. It's not to do with any physical characteristics. It's enjoying it. They enjoy themselves. They're comfortable in front of the camera. So they just take good photos. And then there's maybe 70, 80% of people that are not so much that way. I'm very interested in those people because I don't want all photos to be of the 20% of people that look good in front of the camera. So you have tricks of... so one of the things I do to relax people is at the start of an event, I'm giving away all my secrets here, but at the start of an event, I will just take loads of photos. Just click, 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 click. And they'll be probably kind of shite because those first few moments where the lens is pointed at you and it's clicking, like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Yeah. But you can only stress about it for so long. You can only focus on it for so long. You can only, oh God, another photo, another photo, another photo. You literally just get bored of it. Yeah. And then actually, as the event goes on, I'm photographing less and less and less and less. But people have stopped noticing me. They've stopped hearing the shutter release. Whereas I think if I took nothing at the start and then waited until everyone's relaxed and then they start hearing click, 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 it tense up again, you know. So
I think that's a very good point. That at some point, like even what I had with that film, at some point you're like, if you're doing a 14-hour day, you can't be worried about it all the time. And then you do think like, oh, am I going to be any good? But yeah, usually relaxed people are better at things than super tense people. Like you need a bit of nervousness, but what I really like about the photo analogy, analogy is probably the right word, is that you can apply it in life as well. I was playing a gig in Ennis last Friday with our good friend Sonia, and there's I won't mention the pub just in case they don't like it, but I'm very positive about them. There's a lovely pub, really good staff, nice atmosphere. They really look after you. In this case, they did a really great, like they're just really good with paying and with drinks and with helping with amplification, everything perfect. But the people in the pub had been slow drinking for a long time because there was some kind of award ceremony. And so it was kind of a funny vibe because obviously playing in pubs, you're used to dealing with alcohol, but there was like a lot of people, really dressed up to the nines, but kind of been slow drinking for a long time. And it was a bit of a stupor, you know. So it felt like, and there was no badness. Everyone was kind of happy, but the response was quite minimal, you know. And I was just playing, and I was like, okay, well, this is a bit, it's a bit hard work. It's fine. But, you know, And then you have to remember as well that nearly always afterwards people will actually tell you that they really enjoyed it, even though they didn't show it, you know. But I was sitting there, and after a while, I just thought, like, I just pulled my focus back, and I just went, "Isn't this amazing? I'm here playing music, getting paid for it, sitting with a really good friend. We're having a few laughs. We're having a drink. I love this music." And I just kind of really, pulled different focus and just changed the moment. And then it was really nice because we're such energetic creatures that we can sense it as well. And then there was a girl standing at the bar kind of with her elbow on it. And she just looked at me, and I could see that she saw the change. And she kind of, her eyes lit up, and she was like, "I'm enjoying the music." You know, and I think we actually need to apply that more. Be more of a photographer in our own life.
Yeah, one thing I have to remind myself to do it, but if I'm driving, particularly for a long time, and obviously your focus is on the road, and if there's a lovely long stretch of road going through the countryside, what I love to do is just widen the focus. And you don't try not to lose focus on the road. Please try not to lose focus on the road, but start to bring in the fields, the animals in them, maybe the mountains in the distance and stuff. And you're like, oh, that's all there. And then narrow your focus to the road again, and then widen it again. And it's a really interesting little exercise. And like, I feel my brain like tingle a little bit, you know? And we do need to remember that we can change our focus. And by changing our focus, we can change our perspective. But also that does take energy sometimes. And sometimes we need to focus on the uncomfortable thing as well. And we can't always pull focus away from it to a distraction.
Yeah, exactly. I like that the example of the road is very good as well. What I've noticed, when I just started driving, I when you're really in a narrow space, you know, sometimes it's better for me to put focus actually not in like, oh God, am I going to hit this? But actually put the focus a bit ahead, and I know that my body actually knows how wide it is. And then that works. So it is funny how that, but like you say, sometimes you're tired. It's 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
You're coming back from Dublin, driving to Clare.
Yeah.
Just like, I need to get home alive.
Yeah.
And then don't play games like that.
Yeah.
But how are you happy with what you're focusing on in your life at the moment?
Yeah, I am. And if I listen to my gut, I am. There's other metrics by which you can measure success and return on investment of your time and energy. By those metrics, maybe not quite as successful, but yeah, just listening to the gut. And again, the thing about focus is it's about what you're not doing. Like sometimes you have to focus on a creative pursuit, and you're like, okay, this might not bear fruit for a year or at all. And while I'm working on this, I'm not doing other things that might bear fruit in a day or an hour that other people might see and, you know, reward you for. But sometimes you just feel like that kind of deep work needs your focus, and it's an absolute privilege to be able to do it, because we're not, you know, we all have pressures on us. You know, it's not always easy to choose where to put your focus. But I think this is something you were kind of alluding to earlier, Bart, is that like putting your focus on something can make it bigger or smaller, you know. Sometimes I'll see with patients where they're like, you know, they come in for an issue with their knee and like everything else is improving, but the knee isn't, and that's all they can feel, you know. Yeah, I'm not sure what my point was there.
No, but I think it's right. And that's the part that fascinates me, that you can't make a real rule of like, people say things like, oh, what you give attention grows or whatever, but yeah, not always. And it's funny how sometimes, nearly like with that car thing, like if I want to get through the gap, you need to maybe not focus on the gap too much.
Yeah.
And so I started recently doing a bit of Reiki on my kids. They really seem to benefit from it. But the funny thing with that is you have a tendency to put your hands on them and go, I hope they will, I don't know, find healing, or I hope they will be more peaceful in themselves and fall asleep or something. But actually, that focusing doesn't work. It's actually, you have to go, I'm sure this will do what it needs to do.
Yes.
Kind of a wide focus, and then that actually,
well, because then you're focusing on the process and not the outcome.
Yeah, and it's and quite often, if you can remove ego from it, that really helps. Whereas I think you described it in the ego episode quite well, about the ego being the thing that, was that what you said? Like that it's the thing that helps manifest your inner world into the outer world. And when you take it out of it and trust more in that process,
we love a process.
then that will actually really help. And another one that's interesting, I find, is focus on criticism. That we are designed, it seems, or evolution has made us, but that we're always on the lookout for trouble. That's an odd one as well. Like that's one of the middle way ones, where it isn't like, oh, it becomes bigger or smaller. It's like, you hear this from like famous podcasters like Joe Rogan or something. It's like, oh, do you have the bell ready?
Yeah, ding. Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I don't read any comments. I think in his case that's probably apt. Because he has, I think half the world knows him and listen to him, so probably that's good. But then it's like, but do you take on criticism? I think in his case, he does take on criticism. But he's just like, maybe not from everyone, because that's too much. But
Yeah, I think that's what I'm interested in about focus, is focus's ability to cut things out as well. Because like I could take a photo in a rubbish yard, and if I use the right focal length, that rubbish just becomes a blur.
Yeah.
And then the subject is pin sharp.
Yeah.
But then there's an ethical aspect to that as well. Like, is it always appropriate to completely ignore the context? Now, if everything is pin sharp all the time, I don't think we're designed to. So what's coming up for me now is like global stuff that's happening.
Yeah, I'm thinking globally. That too. Yeah.
So
go on.
I think it's important. I think there's no point denying any of that. I think it's very important to be aware and informed. That is the world we live in, and we are connected to a greater or lesser extent. But you need to also be able to go into that and come out of it and bring your focus back to yourself, your family, your community, the land where you live, your environment. This needs your focus. If your focus is always on the other side of the world, looking at absolute horror, we're not built for it. We're not built for it. It needs to be done. It needs to be done. It can't be ignored, but go into it and ideally take some kind of action. Like, give it your focus enough to take something forward, to do something, make a phone call, make a donation, make art, do something.
Yeah.
But then if your focus is always over there, the immediate, it's kind of like that photo where the foreground and the subject is all blurry, and then this one thing off in the distance is pin sharp. It's disconcerting for a reason. Doesn't mean you should never do it, but if everything looks like that the whole time.
Oh, you brought that back around really nicely, because that is a very good example where it's like, that is disconcerting, and it is good to put focus on it, but then also, you have to come back. Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and that's one of the ones where it becomes, it's a very specific, like, it's hard to get the proper middle, find the golden middle, because, like you say, when there's horrible things happening abroad, it needs to be seen, it needs to get attention. But I do see a lot of people here who pay so much attention to it while not actually there definitely is a point where I'm like, I don't think this is adding anything anymore, but it is wrecking your head and making you less of a positive influence in your own life.
Yeah.
You know, I know that's very difficult to say, and I don't mean. I hope everyone will take that in good faith as well. Like it's. I think like you did a post on this, which was very good. It's like it 100% needs to happen, but just be aware that there's a cost, and maybe that there's a balance you can strike.
Yeah. And the other thing about that post was that like impotent anger is very damaging to the individual. In that post I made on my Chinese medicine account, like the focus in that post is when I am treating an individual. You know, that's where I bring my focus in that post. You know, I'm not talking about the global action. I'm talking about the effect of these things on one individual person. And the idea that you can be so angry, and if that has nowhere to go, it will turn inwards on the person. Yeah. Now, I'm not making a value judgment on that, because a lot of revolutions and civil rights movements and wonderful social upheaval happens when a lot of anger is repressed for a long time and then comes out. There can be bigger patterns of change, but I am talking about the individual, and that's why I say bring your focus, take an action, and then bring your focus back here, because we are designed, we are coded, we are evolved, we are built to connect with our immediate environment and the people in our immediate environment. This whole ability to connect with stuff and focus on stuff in countries we might never visit, and people we might never speak.
Through a lens that is completely unfamiliar to you as well. You do not know who put what out there. Yeah, and it's not that it's good or bad, but it's very new. And I don't think it nourishes us in the way that, the environment we've evolved in for hundreds of thousands of years, you know. And it's very different person to person as well. I think that the tendency we have is to go, oh, well, this is what we all should be doing, thinking, like you see a lot of posting like that, you know, where it's like, oh, it needs to be, the time is now, this, that. It's like, there are societal things that I've been really upset and worried about that other people don't pay attention to. Like we all have our different
that's true.
trigger points,
different lenses.
And different lenses and things we might be better suited to push forward on. I was saying to Yvonne last night, to bring it back a little bit, like I always use like Chrome as my internet browser when I'm working, but then for some reason there's some reason why I can't use, for my taxes I can't use it, so I have to use Microsoft. And Microsoft Edge has this thing where it just shows you like tabloid news when you open it up. And I was just and I heard someone say this the other day, actually on social media, I think, where someone says your body, it was something like, there's a time coming where your body will tell you what it doesn't want anymore, or what doesn't suit you anymore. And I think this, what we're talking about, is part of that, where you feel empty after you've been looking at too much of that stuff, or you feel, like impotent anger, and it's eating away at you, and maybe it's impacting how you are at the dinner table, or, but with that Microsoft Edge thing, I really was just like, I didn't want to do my taxes because that thing was coming up. Now, easily solved. You can just click an option to make it go away. But it's funny. I found it kind of, I don't like it when people use the word violence to mean other things than actual violence. But it felt a bit violent to me.
It's an assault.
It felt like, oh,
an
Jesus,
emotional
why are you?
assault.
I'm sitting here in my room quite comfortable, and you just went dead babies, murder, war, and I was just like, I didn't fucking ask for this. I'm trying to do my VAT, you know.
Yeah, and how we use our focus is important. And for me, definitely, I am making a conscious effort to remove distractions. I am deleting more and more apps all the time.
Yeah.
And just so much happier. And like, it's not even about what I am focusing on about. And for me, it's like what I am not focusing on.
Yeah.
There are lots of other ways to engage with these things. I even think the medium is very important. Like if you do want to engage with, let's say, what's happening in the Middle East, you can also read Robert Fisk. You don't have to see Instagram and these little bursts of horror. And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just talking about its effect on the individual. Reading a book by Fisk, reading The Great War for Civilization, or I can't remember. I think he has a book on Palestine, but it's very relevant, but it's presented in a different way. Yeah. It's a book. It's not a screen. It's a person is taking time to set context. It is evolving over time as well. It's not 3 seconds. Poof, you know, it is. You can dip in and out of it. You can take breaks. You can engage more with bits that you think are value. And I think that's one of the other things about we need to remember our focus is that focus should be fluid.
Yeah.
There probably isn't one single focus. There isn't one lens that is right for every circumstance. I mean, life, you know, my photographer kit bag is full of lenses, you know.
Nice.
Actually, I mostly shoot prime lenses. I don't know what that says about my personality. So what that means is like a zoom lens, you can adjust the focus, you can adjust like how close. But I pretty much always shoot prime lenses, which means they have a fixed focal length, which means if I want somebody to appear bigger in my picture, I have to walk towards them.
Yeah.
You know, so I have to like literally change my relationship with the subject. I can't just zoom in and out. But yeah, I think it's a very important thing where you put your focus.
100%. And like you say, the medium is so much a part of that as well, because it is like listening to a trad album or seeing a trad session, or listening to a trad session live. It's so different. Yeah. And I like how our friend John Lillis, who was on one of the earlier episodes, he was talking about a recording he was listening to of a trad session where you could hear the feet stomping, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. Where it brings it more into the reality of the situation, even if you are listening to it at a distance. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. That went very different than I thought it would.
Yeah, it did.
I was mainly thinking about just how to properly prioritize things in my life.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing, is that it's hard to focus on everything. It's almost impossible. But there's things out there that are very good at taking your focus. Yeah. And it's about, as much as you can, maintaining your control, because it is your focus. Yeah. You know, you do have control over it. That said, we are monkeys, and it is, somebody waves a red rag at us, you'll respond to it, you know? Yeah. Like it's there's parts of our lizard brain, our reptile mind, that just respond to certain things.
I always find such comfort if you can give a bit of grace to that idea as well. It's that, what is the Terry Pratchett quote, like, we are not fallen angels but rising apes. Yeah. I probably agree with that sometimes, and sometimes I won't agree with that, but I like the grace that comes with, like, even when you said it there, it's a compassionate response, you know. I think the biggest fucking focus puller shite we all know is the black screen here. Yeah. And like, sometimes you do take back power and you just chuck it in a corner and you don't look at it and you go, oh, feels nice. And then not to go, which I definitely have a tendency to do, like, yeah, you bastard, why are you not doing that all the time? But to go, good man. Yep. Took back a bit of control. Like, I really think we should all be, well, more generous to each other, but also definitely more generous to ourselves in terms of, we are programmed, made, designed, whatever you want, whatever you're having yourself. We are this way. So the bright lights will draw our attention, and it's a good thing they do too when there's an oncoming car in the middle of the night. Yeah. But also then to evolve beyond that and go, not now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think discernment, you know, this thing you said at the start, it's focusing on some things gives you energy, and focusing on some things takes it away. And that's not necessarily good or bad. No. But just be aware. Just be aware. Right now I'm giving this thing focus that is draining me, and that's worth it. That's 100% worth it. But I can't live here.
Exactly. And we were talking about very big topics just a moment ago, or alluding to them. And I think you did it beautifully. And if anyone gives you grief for it, I will give them fucking grief, boy.
Likewise.
Because you're very nuanced, I think. But to bring it down a level, I've been having my car fixed for the last couple of weeks, and it is draining buckets of energy from me, even though it's just phone calls and all that.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's neither good nor bad. I'm just realizing, this is really draining. I'll be glad when it's done. But it is worth it because I need my car to be fixed, because I need to be able to zoom around County Clare. That's just what it is. But it's good to see it.
Yeah.
So that I won't become, an insurance assessor, because that would not be good for me.
Don't think it's the way your brain works, Bart.
No. And works is used very broadly there.
It's so funny with the car thing, because I've been kind of there from the start of the saga. Like, I was with you when you found the car with the ding in the side of it, and I was getting pretty long voice notes about it, and then you were like updating me, and then like I think the last one, like the second last one was just you. I have to go into Ennis for the car, and then the last one was just like, and then I have to do more on the car, and it's just like you're saying less and less, but in your voice, the life is being drained out of you.
Well, it's so funny as well, because in a way, what a luxury to have a vehicle that can move you so quickly and gives you all this freedom, or it does for now anyway, until they control all the electric cars. No. I thought we hadn't had any nice conspiracy notions for a while, so I thought I'd throw that in there. Yeah. No. But like, it's such a luxury. But then also, living here, you do need it. You're not going anywhere without it. So it is gas how it's. But yeah, that's draining a good bit of my focus at the moment, and I think that that's the phone call I'm gonna do in a moment.
Yeah, Bart's focus is now returning to the horrible black mirror.
The black mirror.
And I think that is needed and appropriate. And thank you very much, Bart, for your energy and focus and attention for the past hour and 6 minutes.
That's all right. An hour and 6 minutes, longer than 11 anyway. Thanks, brother. This has been Weshtern Philosophy on Focus. Follow us on social media at Weshtern Philosophy Pod, and if you want to support the podcast, you can buy us a coffee via the link in the episode description below. We'll be back next week with a new topic. Slán.